on chapter 1, lesson 3. Sometimes I'll write that as 1.3, just in case you get confused by my notes. And that starts on page 23 in your math books. So we're going to take what we've learned so far this week about place value, and we're going to start modeling fractions and decimals. So let's read here. It says numbers that have digits in the tenths place, hundredths place, and or beyond are called decimals. A decimal point is used to separate the ones place from the tenths place. And you'll notice that that's tenths and hundredths, not tens and hundreds. And so here we are in our draw it. We're going to use a model to show 3/10, or 3 out of 10. Then we're going to write it in word form and as a decimal. So this model right here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 columns. This is a tenths model, and we're going to shade 3 of them to show 3/10. So you're just going to take your pencil and color in 3 of these 10. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, and if you need more time, you can push pause. Please remember that at any point. Now we're going to show it in word form. So the model shows how many tenths? 3/10. That's in word form, 3/10. And if we used our place value chart, remember we've got our place value ones and then tens, hundreds, thousands, millions would be over here. We have tenths to the right of the decimal point, and we have 3 out of 10. So our decimal is 0.3. And I don't like the way they don't make you draw the whole thing, so I'm gonna rewrite it and go like that. That's our answer, 0.3. And now let's go to this try it one. It says use a model to show 9/100ths and then write it in word form and as a decimal. So this is a hundredths model right here because there are 100 little options that we can choose. And how many are we going to shade? It's 9 out of 100. So we're going to shade 9 of the small squares on the hundredths model. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, that makes sense. We've got 1 less than that 10 there because that would be 10 out of 100. So there's 9 out of 100. The model shows 9 hundredths. And notice again that's hundredths, not hundreds. And if we look at our place value chart, we have 0 ones, we have 0 whole numbers. We actually don't even have a tenth. We don't have 10, so we have 0.09. And we're going to be doing some more with this to make sure that makes sense. And again, I'm going to rewrite it. 0.09 is 9 hundredths. And if you need more time on this page, go ahead and pause it. But if not, we're going to turn the page. And we're going to head over here to our next try it one. It says use a model to show 34 hundredths, then write it in word form and as a decimal. So we've got 100 squares here, and it wants us to shade 34 out of them. So I know that this column is going to be 10. So I've got 10, 20, 30, and I actually need 34. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is 34 out of 100. And the word form is 34 hundredths. 34 hundredths. Now in 34, it wants you to notice that there are actually 10. Look at here. There's 3/10 and 4 hundredths. We've got 3 groups of 10. This one went all the way to the top, this one did, and that one. So we have 3 groups of 10 and then 4 left over. So you see the tenths place right here is a 3 groups of 10 tenths, and then there's 4 hundredths left over. So our decimal is 0.34 or 0.34. Because I like you guys getting the practice to write the whole thing out. Okay, let's talk about it. It says the model at the right shows a thousandths cube. What fraction of the model is shaded? So this face of it right here is 100, but it goes back 10 times. There's 10 of them. So this is a thousandths cube. There's 1,000 little cubes. So we're going to count here how many are shaded. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that top extra thing right there, it doesn't count as a fifth one because it's actually just the top of this right here. It's just another face of that same exact block. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 1,000. So it says, what fraction is shaded? Here's the fraction, 4 out of 1,000. And it wants us to write it as a decimal. And so let's look at this ones, tenths, and hundredths chart, and let's use it. But we're going to rewrite it. We know we have 0 ones because we don't have a whole number. Here's our decimal. Do we have any groups of 10? No. Do we have any groups of hundredths? Actually, no. We have in the thousandths. We have 4 out of 1,000. So our decimal is 0.004. And we're going to be going over this as we go, but this is our tenths. Oh, I'm going to write it in a different way. This is our tenths column, hundredths, and thousandths. So we have 4 out of 1,000. Okay, let's do this. Shade the model to show 80 out of 100. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you can make it look a little bit nicer if you want, because mine is pretty messy right now. So we've got 80 out of 100, and I only counted to 8 because I know that each one of these lines is a 10. So I've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. There's 80 out of 100. And my write the fraction in word form and as a decimal. So word form would be 80. And how many is it out of? Hundredths. Hundredths. My THS at the end. Hundredths. Kind of messed up this S. 80 hundredths. And the decimal is 0.80. That's my hundredths column. Okay. This last question on this page says, explain why 45 out of 100 is written as a decimal with a 4 in the tenths place and a 5 in the hundredths place. And so why is it written like this, 0.45? Why is that 4 in the tenths place and the 5 in the hundredths place? Well, if we drew it out and we drew a 10 column, 10 frame, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we drew in, we've got to have it out of 100. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We'd have 440. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then half, 45. So you see that this is actually 4 groups of tenths to make 45. 4 groups of tenths. So that is why it is 4 groups of tenths and then 5 hundredths. Okay, pause it here if you need more time. We're going to go to practice. So these ones we're just going to shade the model to show each fraction and then write each fraction in word form. So 7/10. I'm going to color 7 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And my fraction is 7, my top number. I'm going to just write it. And then that's out of 10, so we're going to say tenths with my ths at the end, tenths. I'm going to pause the video here. I want you to complete 5 and 6. I want you to pause the video, complete 5 and 6, and then check your work. So I want you to complete number 5 and number 6 and then unpause it to check your work. Okay, and here's the answers. We shaded 9 out of 10, and that's 9 tenths. And we shaded 4 out of 10, and that's 4 tenths. Let's do number 7 together. We have 5 out of 100. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just 5 out of 100. And this one we're going to write in word form. It's given us 2 lines because it's a little bit longer. 5 hundredths. 5 hundredths, not 500s. That's a big difference. 5 hundredths. Let's do number 8 together. We're going to shade 63 of them. So that's going to be 10. This is going to be 20. This is going to be 30, 40, 50, 60, and then now I need just 3. And this, when we write it out, is going to be 63, our top number. We just write it out as it is, and the bottom is out of 100, so it's hundredths. Now I want you to go ahead and complete number 9 under here, and then I want you to check your work. So pause it so you can complete number 9. Okay, the answer for number 9, you should have shaded 2 groups of 10 and 1 group of 100ths, so 21 hundredths. And then now to move on, let's do number 10 together. This time we're gonna write the decimal. So our fraction here is 2 tenths. So our decimal is going to be 0.2. This is our tenths place in the decimals. and then we'll do number 11 together. Our fraction would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 out of 10. So our decimal is going to be 0.8. Now I want you to try and do number 12 underneath here. You're going to complete number 12, and then I want you to come back and check your work. Complete number 12, and then while it's paused, and then come back and check your work. So when we did this one, we counted 5 out of 10, and that's 0.5. This is our 10th place value. Now we move on to number 13. If you need more time, remember you can always pause it. This is going to be out of hundredths. So let's count up and see how many we have. We have 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 out of 100. And so my decimal is going to be 0.17. And remember there's 1 in the 10th right there because I have one group of tenths. So that's my decimal. Let's look at this one, 14. We're going to count them up. I've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. And I know that's 1 away from 90, so it's 89 out of 100. And my decimal is going to be 0.89. And the 9 is in the hundredths place, and that 8 is in the tenths because I have 8 groups of tens. And this time, I want you to do number 15, complete number 15 on your own. Pause the video, complete number 15, and then check your work. Okay, for number 15, you should have counted 68 spots out of 100, and so our decimal is 0.68. And this is called 68 hundredths. 68 hundredths. Okay, let's turn the page. We're going to do this apply it. So we're going to do some word problems with this. And let's see if we can go from here. It says Dwayne waters his plants with 0.76, that's 76 hundredths, quart of water every other day. Write this amount of water he uses in word form and as a fraction. So that number right there we need to put in word form and a fraction. So remember, this is the tenths hundredths. So it's 76 out of 100. That's our fraction, and our word form is 76 hundredths. And remember how important that THS is at the end. 76 hundredths. Let's look at 17. Jessica's family ate 6/10 of the cake she baked. Write the amount eaten as a fraction and a decimal. So we have it in word form, 6/10, and we want it as a fraction and a decimal. So 6/10 is 6 out of 10. That's our fraction, and our decimal is going to be 0.6. That also says 6/10. Those are all equal. Let's look at this one. It says, May rode her bike 7/10 of a mile to school. Her friend Julie walked 7/100 of a mile to school. Did the two girls travel the same distance? Well, I think we should draw our conclusion. So here's, if we have our charts, these are very small ones. So she rode 7/10 of a mile, like that. And her friend Julie walked 7, not out of tenths, but out of hundredths. So we've got to draw this one. went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 hundredths. So this is how much May went, and this is how much Julie walked. Did they walk the same distance? No, she walked almost a mile. Remember, this is parts of a whole. So this is if they walked the whole thing, it's a mile. Look how much more she walked than her friend. Her friend would have to walk so much more to catch up. So let's say May rode much farther. She didn't ride just a little bit farther. She rode much farther than Julie, who walked only just a little bit. Just a little bit. Okay, we have one more problem left because we're not going to do write about it. So we have one more problem and then we're done with this lesson. It says to use number sense. Write the decimal and fraction for each model. Are the two models equal? So let's check. We've got a tenths frame here. So 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 10. So here's our fraction, 4 tenths. And it needs a decimal, 0.4. Okay? And now here we've got a hundredths model. So we've got something out of 100. And I know my decimal is going to have 2 places, because that's the hundredths column. And let's see how many we've got. We've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 40 out of 100, and 40 hundredths. Is it the same amount? Is 4 tenths the same as 40 hundredths? Well, you might not know by looking at the numbers. They're similar. But look at our models. If we took those two models and put them over each other, we'd get the exact same size. Or, watch, if we turn this one into a hundredths, we get the exact same picture. So yes, 40 hundredths or 0.40 is the same as 4 tenths or 0.4. And as we go along, we're going to be talking much more about this. This is just the beginning of this, so we've got lots of time to learn. If you have any questions, let me know.